Everybody should be aware that they're being recorded. Um, okay, so in terms of the agenda for today, as Hannah was telling us, is pretty straightforward. Um, we have discussion action on the minutes, and then we're going to talk about the charter. And then under old new business, our schedule and upcoming meetings and, any other general questions I think that people have. So thank you, Hannah, for sending out all this material. And I will take everyone I presume has had a chance or hopefully had a chance to review the minutes and the agenda as well as our charge that was also sent out. So I guess we'll start with the action on the minutes. Any questions or issues on the minutes that were sent out from the last meeting? I do want to say they were very thorough and it was great to read through it and remember all the things we had discussed. So thank you for putting together those minutes. Any questions, comments, edits to the minutes of November 11th?
So Rob, I did receive a few things from Steve Olenoff, who cannot be here today. He's at a wake or a funeral. So those will be included in the final version.
Do you have what they were just generally or?
Uh, Little things here and there. He wanted some commas instead of semicolons.
Oh, okay.
Steve is a stickler for this kind of stuff and
Yeah,
has been
all
for
right.
many years.
Well, I will accept those unless I hear objections from other members. We'll accept those changes to the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, so we've had the minutes have been moved to accept along by
Seconded.
Greg and seconded by Bruce.
Yes.
All those in favor of accepting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
It's a
Okay, so the
miracle.
next item is our new charter, and just to, I think, review and I think it looks like it's in front of us. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this charter and the charge and the name change was approved at the last advisory board meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I think we will, of course, discuss it and review it. And if people have questions or issues or things they want to discuss about it, we can certainly do that. And then if we feel, I think if we need any changes, we'll go back to the advisory board. I would take it. But has everyone had a chance to go through it and look at it?
No.
I'll just open it up for discussion and members or Hannah or Brian, do you want to say anything about this in terms of introducing this?
I'd love to. Thanks. So
ahead.
this is sort of a new approach this year, 2025, that we're trying for all of our committees. Obviously, it's next to impossible to predict 100% of what's going to happen in the next 12 months in terms of topics. So the things sort of at the beginning of the year are more solid than things sort of later in the year. Nevertheless, it's all there for everyone to see. Hold on a second. Something just happened.
Brian, do you have anything about the charge or the charter that you want to talk about or history of this change and things like that?
No, again, just trying to capture more of what the committee is interested in. We've heard about the name change. I wasn't comfortable with regional rail in and of itself because it's not an official thing, but passenger rail is a real thing. So I'm comfortable with the name change. And I think we should continue to do this. I did just want to follow up on what Hannah was saying earlier that so the T was originally agreed to meet with us monthly, and then they sort of backed off on that. So they'll be meeting with us quarterly, and every time they come, they'll bring Keolis and the railroad ops people. And the times when they're not available, when we have stuff scheduled, we'll sort of do that internally.
And that certainly seems reasonable. The monthly schedule is kind of new for us, right? To meet every month. And I think that's a good change. Is everyone comfortable with at least, schedule, pretty much a monthly schedule with leaving out, I think, what, August and July and August. Does that pretty much match with people's expectations or thoughts on this?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I guess any questions about the charter, the new charter and our charge, or do people
had
feel
one
like
little
it
nit.
covers things?
I had one little nit,
Sure. Who's
which
that?
was this,
Alan?
it's Bruce.
Bruce, okay,
I have
go
my
ahead.
hand up. There's some duplication. In the second sentence, it says the committee also reviews expansion transformation. And then in the third sentence, it says it also considers transformation. So if they wanted to shorten it, they could take one of the transformations out.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
passed the test, Bruce. Good job.
Bruce gets the
It's really
star
a
for
nit. I
today.
mean, I'm just competing with Steve, that's all.
That's very good. Well, it sounds like a good change.
Yep,
Um,
good catch.
I like the overall summary. It really lets us get into a number of what I think are important issues should we care to. So I like this change. Any other thoughts or comments on this?
Yeah, this is Roy. I had actually two or three questions or comments. One is the list of towns at the bottom.
Yep.
Ship
So
towns?
yeah, if you can scroll down.
Yeah,
Lost you.
so that's not part of our charter, right? Or is, I mean, but we could certainly talk about it. So
Oh,
these are the
okay.
current members, as I understand it, right?
Well, Roy, I forgot you. I very much
Uh-oh.
apologize.
Yeah,
Now
so
this is a problem.
I didn't know if I should read anything into that, but
Oh,
Whoops, how did we
that's
do that?
shame on me. Shame on me. You still have 2 more months in office, right?
yeah, right.
All right, so
How about that?
what does that mean though in terms of, so now do we have 10 members?
I believe it's about 10 members.
Well, there's
And then
9
the
on
other
this
thing that
list.
we had put out there, of course, is obviously they're all public meetings, so any of our advisory board members can attend. And I think that these were mostly the communities that had reached out to Brian in terms of interest of serving.
So for technically though, if we're at 10, right, which it seems like we are, then that means the quorum now is 6, right? As chair, I need to pay
I
attention.
think
to
there's
these
11
things.
there now.
What's that?
Looks like there's 11 listed.
4.
Yeah, Boston wants to be on it too, so that's 11.
You're
So this
right.
is
So
what
the
this is
current
always
list
what
is
happens in the beginning of the
4.
year is everybody wants to be on every committee and then folks stop showing up. So
Oh, do we have a new one? So Boston's on there now?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So,
So
but the problem with that is then the whole quorum issue, which I don't know. We could do things without quorum, so I
Well,
suppose.
you have 7 committee members on right now.
Okay, so that's good.
If not, no, more than
All
that.
right.
I think Roy raises a good point, though, is I'm not sure the list of towns belongs in the charter. That's an annual vote by the advisory board.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking of it that way. I think this is just just information for us, right?
yeah, but
I
we
wanted to
have-
just have everything in one place.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
So
that's
I
all it
wouldn't read
is.
it that way necessarily.
No, then it just means you have to update it every year. So
Well, that's the plan. So the
Okay.
the charge of the committee is the first paragraph.
Yeah.
And that's what was voted on by the full advisory board at its meeting earlier this month. So that's kind of the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And then hearing from you folks about topics and what we might have missed, what you want more of, what you want less of. That's something we're also really
Right.
trying to
okay,
hear.
well, if I could let me just bring up the other points on my mind. One is the a standing item. It says on-time performance and metrics shall be discussed. Like there's no discretion there. But are we going to have data delivered every month on these things?
That was sort of written when the T had agreed to come every month. So since they've backed off on that, we'll have to make that change. But if there are standing items you want to hear every month, let us know. We can certainly try to pull it together, but just know that any sort of on-time performance or performance information would be coming from us, not from the authority.
Okay, then the scope of the charge itself is, I guess, so broad that it could be almost anything you could ever think of regarding
Yeah.
rail service. But
Yeah.
That's kind of the
I
idea.
guess I had a question though regarding what the committee is actually doing. It's meeting every month, so there's a lot of topics. There's a topic actually scheduled for every month for the year.
Mhm.
But it seems to me that there should be some kind of deliverable. If so much time is being spent studying these questions, then what's the result of all of that?
I see it as more of an oversight role, Roy. So the fact that you're getting them to come and talk to you every month in and of itself is part of the committee's charge, and by
Right.
doing that in and of itself, you're achieving something.
One of the things, to Roy's point, I was thinking about, so the regular update should include the bid process with either probably a quarterly update at least, and then
Mhm.
the progress of, say, regional rail,
Okay.
and the transformation. But Roy, did you have thoughts for specific deliverables such as like reports or updates, or what were you
Well,
thinking of?
we have minutes, but I think it would be useful maybe to have the committee prepare an annual summary or something of what we think the most important items were that were discussed or identified or recommended for future action or something. Otherwise,
Just kind of a summary of our efforts and what we see happening, kind of thing,
Yeah.
or what the issues are.
Sure. Good idea.
Other thoughts, if people think that's a good idea, generally, the rest of the committee? But I see heads nodding.
And Brian, I know I'm slightly newer to obviously the whole schedule and process, but really from what I understand, from what I've learned from Brian, the CIP review and that ops review is also an opportunity for this committee to weigh in, correct, Brian? And to really have their voices heard.
Yep. So that's something else we're trying to do with every committee this year is get their direct feedback on the operating budget and on the capital budget. So anything that you folks want to say will get handed over to those other two committees that will take into account what you're saying and work them into their sort of oversight reports. But as far as what Roy said about the committee doing its own thing, I think that's a great idea, and we'll certainly make that happen.
Sounds like work. Okay.
Unless you want the chairman to write it.
I know, right? But no, that's good. Got to give us something to focus on, and then I think
Yeah.
we should think about when we would issue such a report and under what circumstances. As part
So
of
you'd
this
want to
setup.
issue it in advance of the advisory board's sort of annual general meeting in
Okay.
December. So,
All right. So we're looking at a November kind of,
Mhm.
okay. Well, that sounds good. So let's put that on our list, and we'll
Okay.
do some updates on it. So before, I just wanted to wrap up. So the charge, though, I think everybody's in agreement with the charge pretty much as written, with that removal of duplication, so we can move on. Should we take a formal vote to endorse this new charter?
Well, just one more detail. Why is it called the
Sure.
2025 charter? Because, a charter should be in place, for a while. It's just the charter until it's changed.
Okay.
So
Why should there be a
just
date
have
on
a charter with the date that we voted. And then we'll know when we change it in the future.
Right. Well, I think it was accepted by the full board at the last meeting, so you could say charter accepted whatever that date was.
That's how I get things.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm on it because the guy that runs this committee, Brian, knows that I'm a number. So sure.
You could do, what you could do is at the bottom, say in parentheses, adopted 2025.
Yeah, I think that would read better.
The same as the MBTA advisory. It's an offshoot, yeah.
Sure.
Right. So I would entertain a motion to accept and endorse the charter with some changes as noted.
So moved.
Seconded.
And motion's
Seconded.
been made in second. All those in favor, wave your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the charter is adopted. Thank you. All right, so now I think we're, was there a question or? Okay. I think now we'll spend a little more time on standing items and the schedule that the staff has put together. Thoughts on that? I think in terms of, I think we probably don't need to discuss on-time performance and metrics at every meeting, although I think we should have at least these are the kind of standing things we'll touch base on. The thing I want to just, if we have maybe something like that says general updates, like on ridership or issues, or, the RFP process, for example, which we talked about at the last meeting. And regional rail updates are issues. Any other thoughts on standing items?
I just want to make a comment on the on the ridership. What level of detail are you looking for? And why can't the T provide a report every month to us, whether they come or not?
So yeah, Alan, I owe you an update on that. So they have ons and offs by station almost done. So they don't have it fully blessed by all of the powers that be yet, but they will give that to us soon, hopefully before next month. There's no reason why they can't, and we can pull it together every month as well from publicly available sources.
The only thing, the only note I would make is that, we're a volunteer committee and meeting every month is going to be, I think, a little ambitious. So how many reports do we really need as opposed to having them on a quarterly basis? I guess I would just raise that question. But, are there going to be big changes in ridership from month to month, or are we looking more at trends over longer periods?
Well, I'm most concerned and interested on the South Coast Rail that's starting up in 5 weeks.
So that's yeah.
So we should be looking, keeping tabs on the growth in ridership there, changes in ridership, and the impact it has on the existing portion of the line. And I represent Brockton, which is a big section of that ridership.
In terms of looking at, so that sounds like a good reason to review ridership on a pretty regular basis with that implementation. In terms of topics that I think Hannah put to schedule together with Brian.
Rob, Sheila's hand is up. Just wanted to
I'm
let you
sorry.
know.
Yeah, people can feel free to make noise because I'm not necessarily seeing everybody on my view.
Okay.
So,
all right. Thank you. I'd be interested in ridership every month.
Okay.
The other metric that I don't want to make extra work, so maybe this is less so, but I'm curious of how the fare collection is. Do they have metrics on how well they're doing on fare collection? I don't know.
Sure, they have them. I'm not sure I trust them.
Yeah, actually, Brian or Rob, I wanted to ask you about that. I thought some time ago, there was a question about the reliability of ridership statistics, and now I'm not sure whether the question was number of people or number of fares collected, or maybe both.
Yeah, I remember that part coming up. It was fares collected. That is, people could be double counted in ridership, right? Like your return would be another fare, right?
It's an age-old battle and question. I guess the only thing I would say is that the ridership estimates, the way that the authority does it, they are directionally correct. I wouldn't say that they're 100% accurate in terms of numbers. Now it's getting better. Every new vehicle they purchase has automatic passenger counters on them.
No kidding.
But again, you can only rely on that so much. So it's more of an aggregate of the conductor counts, the automatic passenger counts, live head counts by independent third parties, and the handheld things. So I think it's as good as it's gonna get, but I don't think I would necessarily take an oath on it.
Certainly something we'll look at every meeting and review what the quality of the data is. Okay.
Thank
Any other thought? I just had, oh, go ahead. Who's that?
No, I was just saying, thank you.
Yeah. One thing that occurs to me in terms of the whole regional rail question, I personally don't have a lot of background on the kind of analytics and the policy of the regional rail transformation. So I don't know, do other people feel like they're well versed in it and what's going on with it and what the whole project is about?
Well, I mean, I certainly feel like I know as
You
much
would,
as
yeah.
any sort of civilian can.
Yeah.
It's really a question of vehicle procurement at this point, and then the biggest impediment to vehicle procurement is having a place to store, maintain,
Yeah,
and
yard
fix these things
capacity, yeah.
from. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's your hill to climb.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more like what's behind the initiatives. So for example, well, the whole like, is it to go to Springfield? Is it to increase the schedule to say Worcester? Is there a north-south?
Yeah.
What exactly is under consideration? What's the thinking and the analysis behind it? So for example, I was chatting with Mayor Sisitsky about a month ago at an event, and of course, he's not just the mayor of Framingham, he's also on the board. And I asked him about regional rail, and his response, well, his concern was grade crossings, for example, increasing grade
Yep.
crossings. So, these kind of issues in analysis, I'm feeling like, I could use a little more background on. So maybe it's a question
Okay.
of either getting more of the reports and the studies and who's pushing it and why.
Okay.
And then us as a committee, what kind of briefings do we feel we want our information in terms of regional rail transformation and updates? So I see it was
Sure.
scheduled for today's meeting, but we're not doing it today, right? So
No.
we'll
So let me talk to the T folks, and we can, or even the Transit Matters folks, so we can get somebody
Yeah.
to talk to you folks about what the vision is. I mean, broadly speaking, it's 30-minute headways all day inside 128. That's
Oh, that's interesting.
I
That's what
thought it
you're
was
looking at.
even more frequent than that in places.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I said at least.
when I hear regional
Yeah.
rail, I think, oh, we're going out to Springfield and beyond. How's that
That's
working?
more
Are we
the
going?
east-west, west-east rail
Yeah,
project on the
right. Well,
Worcester line.
that's what I'm thinking as part of our
Yeah.
charge as well. And when people say that, and I'm wondering about the north-south connection and all that stuff that people
That's
talk
not
about.
envisioned
So
at all.
yeah, no, I meant north-south, not the connection, but
Mhm.
heading north versus heading south, for example. Yeah. So
So, we're trying to, in choosing the topics, we're trying to keep it within what the T can reasonably report on a given
oh yeah.
basis. If there's a desire to hear more about East West, we'll find the right people to talk to you. If you want to hear more about Cape Cod or Berkshires or whatever you want, we'll find the people.
Yeah, and
Let
I
us know.
just want to open this up. Thanks, Brian. What do the committee members think? Is there, from my point of view, I'm interested in this kind of regional, what I think of as regional rail issues, and that I've seen firsthand in some of but what do the other committee members think? Do you want that kind of discussion or policy review as part of and taking positions on that or reviewing the progress?
So,
One
I
of the,
guess just
When you
I'm
say
sorry.
issues, do you mean, I say that means the constraints in the current system to be able to get to that point.
Yeah, that would be one
And
of
there's
the
a whole
issues,
long list,
certainly.
vehicle is one and yard capacity the second.
Right.
Track is, double tracking places is another. I mean, there's several others as well.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So for example, there's a big initiative to run commuter rail out to Springfield, right?
No.
So,
Not commuter rail.
No, that's
You are.
that's separate.
well, I guess that's my question. When you say it's separate,
Right.
is it under our purview or not?
So
Absolutely, tomorrow at 10 a.m.
there's some
10:15.
terms
All
that
right, I'll see
we
you
should
then.
all agree on. Ozzy,
Thank
you're not
you.
muted. We should all agree on a certain set of terms. So like Springfield to Boston would be what they call intercity rail at the T.
Yeah.
Regional rail would be more of the subway-like service, sort of closer in.
Oh, okay.
And then there's all kinds of other types of rail we can discuss.
Right.
But there
So
is, when
my,
you say commuter rail is more of a 9 to 5 type thing, there's
Right.
no plans for 9 to 5 type service to Springfield in the next 10 years that I
Yeah.
know of.
So the one thing that and I think this is because we've divided the advisory board into committees that are subject matter. What we're not thinking about, and I wonder if it's more realistic than what you were raising, Rob, is how do you get from Lowell to Worcester? How do you get from Fitchburg to Worcester? And so we have all these hub and spoke lines, but we don't think about, is there a bus connection? And is that actually something I'm not saying we should do it. It's the kind of thing we're not talking about. I don't think the March stuff is all kind of local to the each Mart area. And it doesn't really, so like if I wanted to go to Lowell from Littleton, the only real way to go is to drive. Or unless you take the train all the way in and all the way out.
Right.
And
So Bruce, there are a few planning efforts going on that are sort of beyond the scope of this that I'd be happy to talk to you about. I mean, and for the T, it's a thing called the Program for Mass Transportation, which at this point is 2 years late, and incredibly frustrating that it's 2 years late. It won't be done until at least it's 3 years late. That's where those sort of things are meant to be discussed, and
Oh,
the fact
okay.
that they don't do it is really infuriating to people like me, because it means we can't answer a lot of the other questions that you're asking.
Well, and it's interesting when you travel to some other cities in the country where they have done that, where they've put in some high-speed bus with basically transit stops at interchanges, park and ride
Yep.
facilities.
Yep.
New Hampshire's done a little of that here, but you can get pretty much anywhere around Denver that way. And that could be that kind of connection, but I didn't know if that was something, but you'd want it to connect with the commuter rail.
Yeah, right. I guess I do
And
see it at least tangentially as something we should be informed of and aware of, and we could make that part of our, not
Yep.
necessarily our purview, but our recommendation is that it's not realistic to run regional rail or intercity or commuter rail in certain directions, but we support, coordinating through some sort of bus system, something like that. So I guess that's the kind of information I'd like to have discussed or be privy to go to your point, Bruce.
Well, and Bruce, just no particular reason, the Denver system you reference, RTD, is operated by a Boston company with former T people in charge. So it
Only
can be
one-
done. We just choose not to.
Only one piece of it, Brian, not the entire system.
Oh, Alan, you're no fun.
I know.
So Brian, my
did
point
the
about
work on it.
intercity is that I see that is kind of at least something we should be aware of and at least involved to some extent.
Okay.
What are people think? I mean, is that fit in with our charter or?
Sure.
Okay.
We
I mean,
can we can ask those folks to come and update you folks anytime you want. Just let me know when you want to do it.
Yeah, okay, then we could certainly look at the schedule. And those folks are with the T as well, but they're a different group.
No, they'd be in the Department of Transportation's
Ah.
rail office.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested in that. What do other members think? Do people want to see something like that, or they?
Comment?
Yep.
It occurs to me, Brian, this might be an interesting question for OTP at MassDOT, might be if they have data of ride service companies, TNCs, between those two nodes, because that would be illustrative of non-car owners making non-transit or rail trips. And then Brian, this also kind of speaks a little bit to that platform I demoed for you on paper one day, which is slowly inching along. Not to be too secretive, but I hope that I could demo to this group in the near future if I can get it over a line soon.
Let us know, Ozzy. We'd love to see that. That was great.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob, so I think the ask is to look at data, see if MassDOT could provide that data, which would show you where the current need is being utilized by non-car owners.
Okay. That sounds like a great beginning. All right. Other topics on any other questions on the schedule? I think, Hannah, this is, thanks for putting this together. I see that's something we may change as, as updates occur. And but I think it's a good monthly schedule to at least try to
So, Rob, I
yeah,
had
go
a
ahead.
question that maybe it fits under the facilities heading, I'm not sure. We've talked from time to time about various issues with parking lots.
Yes.
And in particular, it would be interesting to know which parking lots are underutilized and which might be at capacity. I was surprised. I found myself in Norfolk a couple of weeks ago and got on the train there to get back to downtown, and the parking lot was full. I mean, full to the point where you wonder if maybe it should be even bigger.
So I see we do have it, there's a commuter rail parking on for October 15th.
Oh, okay. And then the other thing that's kind of connected to that is the state of high platforms, because accessibility is still an issue in a number of stations in particular.
Sheila, do you want to mention what just happened to Wellesley?
I do. Yes. Wellesley just opened a mini high platform in Wellesley Square. And it was an effort between the the MBTA, as well as we had a federal earmark to build it. It's very exciting. Unfortunately, because it's between two track, we have the two tracks, and in order to get to the other track, you need to go out to the street and up over a road and back down. And so unfortunately, that path is not, there's a sidewalk, but it's not technically fully accessible. So that's sort of our next steps. But the mini high is huge. We have a few residents that are really excited about it.
Great.
And it looks good.
Just to follow up on that, Sheila, Roy, the authority does have a plan to roll those out system-wide. And if there is a desire, we can certainly ask those folks to come and talk to you and give you the plan and explain all the details.
We could look at the
Roy,
report.
that happened out at, it must be over 10 years ago in Littleton and then in Acton on the Fitchburg line, and the effect of that was to make parking unavailable, which is good news in a way, but it gets to why, which is, it's now that people are going back in, we talked about, I raised this a couple meetings ago, and you can't take the trains after 7:30 in the morning if you're going to drive to Littleton, for example.
And Bruce, you've been pushing the whole Littleton question, which to me seems like one of the more urgent ones.
Well, it's a very regional type station because it's right at 495. So there's a place for people come there from all over.
So so I think to go to Roy's, I think certainly seeing that report, and then maybe we can decide if we really need to have somebody come in and present it to us, I guess. I'm just a little leery of using up too much time on presentations. It tends to use up the whole hour, but we can certainly go that direction if people want to. But it sounds like a report and an update would be good on that.
I think if there was a dashboard that they could update, the parking update shouldn't, unless there's a plan, shouldn't take more than 15 minutes.
So that would be Brian and Hannah talking to the T and collecting this data or getting them to get get it for
Well,
us.
what I hope we could get across there, Bruce, was more their approach and their sort of
Yeah.
policy towards it. Is it a moneymaker? Do they try to spread it out? Do they dynamic pricing? If not, why not? You know, what tools are in the tool chest? So it's less of a kind of a here you are, and more of a why we are.
In terms of parking, Brian, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's my idea at least. But you know, again, this is your
Yeah,
committee, not mine. So
My
open.
concern is it's a rate limiting factor for ridership, because you have people who, if you drop your kids at school, you can't take the commuter rail from Littleton,
Yep.
even though there are trains.
And that's
And I
the
think-
case in Natick as well.
Well, it is interesting to look at parking, then we could like perhaps target certain parking lots that seem to have high demand that are limited, and what's the plan for them?
Right. And then
Okay.
Ozzy mentioned it earlier that he's working on in his day job something that relates to that as well. So there is work being done on those topics, and we'll see if we can get folks to fill you
Okay,
in on it.
great. So we'll do some follow-up in terms of maybe scheduling certain things. There's certainly a lot to discuss.
Yeah, it seems like I hate to make extra work because, you know, it's easy to do. But it seems like the more we understand the policies and where people want to go, the better job we can do reviewing the CIP and the ops too. Like, I feel like it all ties together, except I don't want to, as you said, Rob, I'm cognizant of bogging ourselves down and just educating ourselves on, you know, because I think we're all really interested in everything that's going on. But I want to be mindful of trying to focus on our sort of task.
Yes.
Br-
a good point.
Brian, so for like the CIP reviews and stuff, are those documents available now for us to review? No.
Oh, Sheila, if only. If only. No, it's a constant battle to get the T to publish their draft operating and draft capital budgets, and the CIP itself won't be out until March 27th. And we, the advisory board, have 30 days to review it and issue sort of our full report on it. So it's a constant sprint to get that done. We used to have 3 months, now we have 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
maybe in our April committee, we could at least review it a bit or see if we had any burning issues. I mean, I'm sure everyone will be commenting on it, but
So you'll all sort of, there'll be a full, the way the schedule works, it's all sort of related to each other. The full advisory board will hear the CIP presentation from the T before your committee meets.
Okay.
And what I'm hoping is that we can use that and then do a little bit of a more deeper dive as a committee just on the commuter rail pieces. And then the staff are going to ask for your feedback to help us better inform the folks that are doing the deeper dive holistically.
Right.
That's sort of the vision or the thinking, at least.
Oh, I think that makes sense. No,
We're trying.
that
Who knows if
sounds
it
good.
works?
Yeah, I'll just reserve some time to make sure I can focus on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Like I said, they used to give it to us January 15th. We had 3 months, but
Well,
not anymore.
so one of the things I think we've come out of this, I think the dashboard concept for our monthly meeting, does that sound like a reasonable thing to try to put together? With maybe I'm looking at Brian as I'm suggesting all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try. It'll be a work in progress, and we'll have to iterate as we go and ask you to work with us, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, just see what do you think, people want to look at, at our monthly meeting, that would be a useful update or a useful trend.
The MBTA has a dashboard. I wonder if we can
Oh.
get them to just expand it, with a little, it's very high level numbers. Frankly, I didn't find it super useful, but I wonder if we can get them to put more into it.
Maybe that's something Mike Muller could work on, as commuter rail operations guy.
So yeah, let the staff, let us take that and see
Okay.
what is available already that we
Great.
can sort of pull off the shelf for you, and then
Cool.
we'll come back to you folks with something.
All right. That sounds good. So other thoughts or any other, I'm seeing as we've kind of gone through the agenda, right? Anything left? Are there
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to address, there's a discussion in the past about, the Alston I-90 project.
Ah, yes,
And,
good point.
I and we as a staff are just not qualified to speak on that. And I don't even know who we would get to come and talk to you. And I also fear that if we got anyone to come and talk to you, as this is a public meeting, it would be very quickly inundated with public people all wanting to speak and say their point. So I guess
Yeah.
I just don't think we're equipped to really take on such a big topic right now.
Okay.
The reason I think I had brought it up at one time was more like how do suburban communities prepare for that project and how is the T preparing to try to prevent bottlenecks in terms of that project, which so I don't know if that's something, but Brian, I think you're saying the last thing I seem to hear from you is that the project schedule is somewhat uncertain. Is that still true?
I think the project itself is uncertain.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anything's going to happen. So
Right.
I don't think there's enough information available for us to
Yeah.
pull together
Okay.
for you to share right now. I
Right.
understand the desire and it's everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think they know in 10 Park Plaza, to be very honest with you.
Especially now with latest federal news, who knows what's going to be happening. But okay. Yeah, that thanks for that note, Brian. I will the
And I'll
other
keep my eyes and ears out also like with the MPO meetings, because I know that had come
I
out
see.
of like one of our MPO meetings a couple months back. But since that meeting, there's been nothing really related to that. And I know Sheila has reached out as well a couple times to try to find updates or to learn more. So you're definitely not the only one, Rob. So yeah, I would just say stay tuned.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it was I brought it up at the meeting with the Senate President's office but Dennis was definitely her guy was definitely very interested in it. And actually they're probably a good source of information. Maybe I'll call him up and see what he's thinking is happening with that whole thing. But you could tell if I go back to the Ashland Select Board, one of the things they're going to want to know is, is that happening? Does the T have a good plan? What's going to happen to our commuters? What's going to happen to people who take the Pike into Boston?
Mhm.
That'll be
I
their,
don't think anyone knows, Rob.
yeah, right. Well, thanks for reminding us of that problem. So, yeah.
No, look, it's a huge thing. It affects so
yeah.
many people. And
Yeah.
if we knew, we'd tell you, but
Yeah.
I just think
So
it's a
let's
little
see if there's
too
any breaking
hot to
news
touch
on-
right now, to be
Right.
honest.
And I'm sure you'll let us know if there's something breaks on that we need to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, other thoughts or questions?
I just want to
Okay, I'm
mention
not-
one thing that I kind of alluded to earlier.
Yep.
That in 5 weeks, South Coast Rail service begins
yeah.
River and New Bedford. It's
Yep.
been 33 years in the making. So that I'm not sure East-West Rail is going to happen quickly, given that track record, no pun. But I'm interested in getting the detail. I mean, I learned that was coming
So have I.
on reading an article in a transit journal, a magazine.
Me
Didn't
too,
hear
Alan.
through us.
So it's on the agenda for March,
I
right?
see that, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
and-
so I'm assuming that the MBTA staff will come to our meeting. I made clear to them that also was sort of the number one topic, because I know, Alan, you had reached out to Brian and I as well about that.
Yep,
And even
thank you.
coming out of, I think MBTA board meets next week. So if there's any updates, obviously out of that meeting, happy to share with you and keep you in the loop. But yeah, as far as we know, we don't even have the schedule out.
Did I sent you the article I found?
Oh
as
yeah,
well?
no,
So it tells you how- it says
I'd seen
finally how
I'd
many
seen the
trips they're
trade
gonna
stuff
run
too.
And the headways that they're proposing on both branches, so it's
So
encouraging
what I
that they're gonna
think,
get back to where they were pre-COVID on that line, but with more stations, hopefully that also means they're adding cars to each train.
I have asked the
like to-
question on
Yeah,
your
so I'd like to
behalf.
understand the entire schedule and the fleet requirements.
Me too.
Yep. So,
Yeah, we've asked, Alan, and I'll keep asking.
all right, keep asking.
I think they, from what I understand, commuter rail schedules now have to go to Beacon Hill to be blessed. And I think that's where the impediment lies right now.
A long time ago, they were being printed by now, but
Indeed.
and the crews had picked their work by now, 5 weeks
Right.
at a time, because
Did
they had
you
to
say
go out
this-
there to training.
Did you say the schedules have to go to Beacon Hill to be approved? Is that what you said?
That's the rumor. Yeah, it's the
Boy.
rumor.
All right, now I know who to call, I guess.
Yeah,
It's the Ashland Select Board that scares the crap out of them.
No, it's really the city of Worcester. They control the whole east-west schedule.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I don't hear. Oh, one thing. If I want to encourage members, if you have any particular stories about commuter rails or experience you've had, I mean, just we'll have time in each meeting, I'm sure, to ask people. One thing I wanted to say before, I actually was waiting for my train, and the train never stopped. It went right through. So, which was relatively unusual. I've never experienced that before. So I asked for an update from Keolis. It did not receive it. So I'm just, I was just sharing that story that either the engineer had some kind of mental blip where he forgot to stop the train. I still don't know at this point why that happened, but it doesn't seem like they talk about having positive train control and all that. I just don't know how it's possible to not make a scheduled stop, and then no incident report or anything from what I can tell. But I don't know if that was just
Well,
an
I have
unusual.
a administrative comment to make
Sure.
before we close here. Just want to compliment Brian and Hannah on the way that they advertise these meetings through, I think it's through Constant Contact. Incredibly clear. I like the links. Everything is very easily laid out. I can follow everything. I wish all my meetings were like this in terms of organization. I just wanted to express my appreciation for that.
And I'll give a
Thanks,
shout out
Brian.
to Isabella, who's also on
Yeah.
our staff, who put together that
That's-
email that you
And
got
Isabella's
yesterday.
here. She's here. So that's all Isabella McKinnon and Hannah
Thanks, Isabella.
Swideltowski. It has nothing to do with me, Brian.
Excellent.
And I'm
Brian's
sorry
got
if I was spamming. I was talking to some of you earlier. Just as far as like the Outlook calendar, I was trying to embed. That's
Ah.
one thing that Brian has started to try to have me do some of more of the admin stuff for this committee and some of the other committees. So I hope everyone received the Zoom link. If you had any issues, definitely reach out. Same thing, the Outlook calendar invites. Right now, schedule wise, I will say it is set to that third Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3. I know there was conversation about possibly switching the timing of some of our meetings. So I don't know if that's another thing, Rob and Brian, you want to possibly discuss.
And I think certainly when the meetings where the T staff isn't coming, we should, consider changing it to times that other people can attend, and maybe just kind of that don't interfere with other important meetings. So I don't know. Would members be interested in that kind of, occasional time changes, like to say 10 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah.
Let me just say, I was the one who asked if it could be at 3 o'clock, just because
Oh,
it's
I see,
always
3
hard to get it
o'clock.
in the middle of
Okay.
the afternoon
Yeah.
or 4 o'clock. But if it's only me, I'm probably only gonna miss one or two, so it's,
Okay.
I don't expect to have conflicts every month.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, if in general people are okay with the two, I think that would be great. But if we need to
That works,
switch,
yeah.
every couple of months, that's okay. I did set it so that it is like a monthly recurring calendar invite and Zoom invite, but I can always go in and edit at any time. So
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I noticed it was all in my calendar for months and months. I'm going, what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah, that's great.
just
Uh,
trying to plan
good.
ahead.
Yeah,
And again, I remember last year or like a few months ago, even in the fall, we did kind of scale back some of our meetings because we did find that, either we covered a certain topic or we were finding that we didn't need to. So, we have our calendar set, but just kind of know that we might go with the flow if things pop up later in the year.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it doesn't hurt to have a short check-in meeting for people who can make it and just kind of, adjust or reset ourselves a little bit or check in on things. So,
Oh yeah, reach out anytime. The three of us are always here. Just send us an email. We're always happy to hop on a Zoom, hop on a call, or even come out. And we're gonna pick up the meetings that we've been doing in communities, probably in like once the snow and ice melts down and it's a little bit nicer out. So if I had to guess, I'd probably say like mid-March, April timeframe in terms of picking back up town visits. So again, if we haven't been to your community and you really want us to come and meet your town manager, city manager, select board chairs, we're happy to do so.
thank you for that outreach effort.
Rob,
Um,
could I add something before we close? I wanted to add, in addition to the excitement of the mini highs, we also at Wellesley Square have 3 new like marquee reader boards, and they're fantastic. That's a huge game changer because it'll show the three next trains, what time, like how many minutes they're coming, and that's been relatively accurate, and it also shows which track they're on. So that's been a huge improvement for all the users in Wellesley Square. So I'm excited to see those.
Thank you, Sheila. All right, any other, again, I want to thank Hannah and Brian for their efforts in putting this together in the administration, and also, I'm sorry, what's the staff person's name? I'm missing her.
Isabella.
Oh, Isabella. Thank you,
She's
Isabella.
on. Give a wave,
Yeah.
Isabella.
Hi, Isabella.
everyone.
Thank you. All right, so if there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion, a second. All those in favor of adjourn,
Aye.
raise your hand, say aye. All
Uh,
right, thank you all. Thanks for attending. Have a good rest of your month here, and we'll see you next month.
all right.
Right.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.